I will tell you about 3 family horror stories that happened in Britain. Each time I warn you and tell you that this is not suitable for the faint-hearted. You believe me and do not see them, because we do not say that all the time, except in special cases. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the point. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and let's go. I never thought such darkness could consume our family. It began with whispers in the night, eerie and unsettling. My sister and I dismissed them at first, attributing them to the old house settling or the wind's haunting song. But soon, the whispers turned into something more sinister. One evening, as we gathered for dinner, the lights flickered ominously. My father laughed it off, saying it was just faulty wiring. But deep down, I sensed something malevolent lurking in the shadows. As the days passed, the whispers grew louder, echoing through the empty halls when no one dared speak. Strange occurrences became commonplace, a cold chill in the air, objects moving on their own, and the feeling of being watched even in the dead of night. Then came the night that changed everything. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, jolting us from our sleep. Rushing to investigate, we found our parents' room empty, their bedsheets stained with crimson. Frantic with fear, we searched every corner of the house, but they were nowhere to be found. It was as if they vanished into thin air, leaving behind only their haunting screams echoing in our minds. Days turned into weeks, and the darkness only deepened. My sister and I were consumed by paranoia, unable to escape the feeling of impending doom that hung over us like a shroud. And then, one fateful night, the whispers revealed their true nature. They spoke of sacrifice, of a sinister presence that demanded blood to sate its hunger. Desperate to appease it, my sister and I made a pact in the dead of night, offering our own blood to protect what remained of our family. But as the crimson stains spread across the floor, we realized the horrifying truth. It was not the darkness we feared, but the darkness within ourselves. The night had always held a certain allure for our family. We were drawn to its mysteries, its whispers, and its shadows that danced like specters across the walls. But as I sit here now, pen trembling in hand, I realize that some shadows should never be beckoned forth. It began innocently enough, with our family's tradition of gathering around the fireplace on chilly autumn nights. My parents, my younger sister Emily, and I would huddle together, swapping ghost stories and sipping hot cocoa until the flames dwindled to embers. But as the nights grew longer and colder, a chill crept into our home that no fire could dispel. It started with faint whispers, barely audible over the crackling of the flames. At first, we dismissed them as the creaking of old floorboards or the wind rustling through the trees outside. But soon, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if something unseen was trying to claw its way into our world. My parents brushed off our concerns, chalking it up to overactive imaginations and the spooky atmosphere of the season. But Emily and I knew better. We could feel it in the air, a palpable sense of dread that lingered even in the daylight hours. As the nights wore on, the whispers escalated into full-blown voices, their words twisted and distorted into incomprehensible murmurs. Shadows flickered and danced along the walls, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to leer and lunge at us from the darkness. One night, as we sat huddled by the fire, Emily suddenly went rigid, her eyes fixed on something unseen in the corner of the room. I followed her gaze and saw nothing but shadows, but the air seemed to grow thick with malevolence, suffocating me like a vice. Then, a voice emerged from the darkness, a rasping whisper that sent shivers down my spine. It spoke of ancient evils and unspeakable horrors, of things that lurked just beyond the edge of our reality, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting prey. My parents paled, their faces drained of color as the voice echoed through the room. They scrambled to their feet, ushering us away from the fireplace and towards the safety of our bedrooms. But even as we retreated, the whispers followed us, their words seeping into our dreams like poison. Night after night, the horrors grew worse, until we could barely sleep for fear of what lurked in the darkness. Shadows prowled the halls like hungry beasts, their twisted forms twisting and contorting in the dim light of the moon. And then, one fateful night, Emily vanished. We searched the house from top to bottom, calling out her name as panic clawed at our hearts. But she was nowhere to be found, as if she had been swallowed up by the shadows themselves. In the days that followed, the whispers grew louder, their words taunting us with the knowledge of our impending doom. My parents frantically searched for any sign of Emily, but it was as if she had been erased from existence, leaving behind only a gaping void in our lives. As the night stretched on into eternity, I found myself drawn back to the fireplace, the flames casting long shadows across the room. I listened intently, hoping to catch a glimpse of Emily's voice amidst the cacophony of whispers. And then, just as I was about to give up hope, I heard it. A faint cry, barely audible over the din, but unmistakably Emily's voice. It seemed to be coming from the darkness itself, a desperate plea for help that sent shivers down my spine. Without hesitation, I plunged into the shadows, heedless of the dangers that lurked within. The whispers grew louder, their words swirling around me like a maelstrom of madness. But I pressed on, driven by the thought of saving my sister from whatever horrors awaited her. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the whispers fell silent. I found myself standing in a vast, cavernous chamber, the walls lined with pulsating masses of shadow that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. In the center of the chamber, surrounded by a writhing mass of darkness, stood Emily. She looked pale and haggard, her eyes hollow with fear as she reached out to me, her voice barely a whisper. I rushed forward, heedless of the danger, and gathered her into my arms. Together we fled the chamber, leaving behind the whispers and shadows that had haunted us for so long. As we emerged into the light of dawn, I realized that our family would never be the same again. We had faced horrors beyond imagining, but we had emerged stronger for it, bound together by a bond that could never be broken. And though the whispers may still linger in the corners of our minds, I know that as long as we stand together, we will always find a way to banish the shadows and face the night. Ever since I can remember, our family reunions were nothing short of a nightmare disguised as celebration. Each year, we gathered at the old family estate, a sprawling mansion nestled deep in the woods. The air was always thick with tension, the atmosphere suffocating, as if the very walls held secrets too sinister to reveal. It all began with my great-grandfather, a man whose name was whispered in hushed tones, his legacy tainted by dark rumors and unspeakable deeds. He built the mansion in the late 1800s, far from prying eyes, and from then on, it seemed as though a curse had befallen our bloodline. As the years passed, the mansion became a symbol of our family's descent into madness. Strange occurrences plagued us, from unexplained noises in the dead of night to shadowy figures glimpsed in the corners of our vision. But it was during our family reunions that the true horror unfolded. It started innocently enough, with small disagreements escalating into full-blown arguments, fueled by resentment and long-held grudges. But as the night wore on, the tension reached a fever pitch, and the facade of civility crumbled, revealing the darkness that lurked beneath. One year, my cousin disappeared without a trace, his absence overshadowing the festivities like a specter haunting the halls. Rumors swirled, accusations flew, but no one dared speak the truth that lay buried beneath layers of deception. Another year, my aunt fell ill, her once vibrant spirit drained by an unseen force. Her words became gibberish, her eyes vacant, as if she were possessed by something beyond our comprehension. We watched helplessly as she wasted away, her body a shell of its former self. But perhaps the most chilling incident occurred during my brother's wedding. As the festivities reached their peak, a scream pierced the night, sending shivers down our spines. We rushed to the source, only to find my uncle standing over his wife's lifeless body, a look of madness in his eyes. He claimed innocence, insisted that he had seen something lurking in the shadows, something not of this world. But we knew the truth, even as we turned a blind eye to the darkness that consumed us from within. And so, year after year, we returned to the mansion, drawn by forces we could not comprehend, trapped in a cycle of madness and despair. Our family reunions became a testament to the horrors that lay dormant within us, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface. But now, as I stand alone in the empty halls of the mansion, I realize that the true horror was never the mansion itself, but the family that called it home. We were bound by blood, shackled by fate, doomed to repeat the sins of our ancestors until the end of time. And as the shadows close in around me, I know that our story is far from over.